This week we're looking at number 7, defeat for the Assyrians, in our study of Isaiah. And again, we have multiple chapters to look at. Isaiah 36, Isaiah 37, Isaiah 38, Isaiah 39. And it's a broad sweep of history that we look at. Read it through because it's a thrilling story of how God does answer our prayers and deals with us in all our humanity. For all the good and the bad that we do, he is trying to help us work out our own situation, our own challenges, to help us with our lives and so on. Well, it begins like this. In the 14th year of the reign of Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, attacked and conquered all the fortified towns of Judah. That sounds like a lot of bad news, doesn't it, right there? And then he sends, that's the king of Assyria, his army general to make this speech outside of Jerusalem saying, you can't stop us. We are going to take you. We've taken all your other cities. Jerusalem's the last one, and we're going to come in and we're going to conquer that. And they even say things like, if you tell me we're trusting in the Lord our God. Well, didn't Hezekiah remove his high places and his altars? You have to worship at this altar in Jerusalem. He's almost trying to get on the religious side, say, well, your God is mad with you too, so he's not going to protect you. And where are the gods of all these other cities and nations? We've defeated them all. Our God is greater than your God, so just give in and give up, and we'll treat you well as the Assyrians ever treated anybody. They had a terrible reputation for a very gross violence and so on. So that wasn't much of an offer, but at least they might live, or at least some of them might. That was the incentive. Otherwise, they were all going to be killed and Jerusalem was going to get destroyed. He even taunts them by saying, I'll give you 2,000 horses if you can find enough riders for them, and so on. So this goes on, and the representatives of the Judean king there, Hezekiah, are saying, please don't talk like this in front of everybody else. We understand the diplomatic language. And the man says, no, we want everybody to hear this because they're involved too. And then there's this letter, not just this speech, but a letter from the king of Assyria. And Hezekiah receives it and is extremely upset because it's a terrible threat. And he goes and spreads it out before the Lord and says, can you see what these people are saying? And what do you think, Lord? What should we do? And God replies, I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry. And the real tragedy is for the Assyrians that he has to do something very dramatic. For Isaiah 37 and verse 36. The angel of the Lord went into the Assyrian camp and killed 185,000 of them. Didn't he love the Assyrians too? Yeah. But here there is this terrible, terrible choice, and God has to make some terrible choices too, because even though he wants to win everyone, there are times where he has to intervene and do some strange work that the Bible speaks about. These are emergency measures. Were they all bad, those 185,000 Syrian soldiers? Well, it's hard to say. They certainly done a lot of destroying and pillaging of the other Judean cities, so it's hard to imagine that they were wonderful people, but it's a tragedy nonetheless. But of course, Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem see this as tremendous deliverance, and this is really, really great news for them. And soon after that, Hezekiah is on his deathbed and he prays and says, oh Lord, I just want a bit more time. You remember how faithful I've been? And God gives him this extra time. What does he do? Well, then there's some messengers, some ambassadors come from another rising empire. This time it's Babylon. And he takes them in and shows them everything in his treasury and so on. And I'm sure they're scribbling down notes to themselves saying, yeah, we should be back. There's a lot of good stuff to get here. And God asks him, what have you been doing? What have you shown in your house to these people? And of course, those extra years of Hezekiah really didn't do him that much good. Something that is worthwhile thinking about as we ask the Lord for things. We need to ask and say, Lord, whatever is best, help me to choose what is your will, what is good, what is right. So much to think about, but there's a quick summary for you. May God bless you as you study.